Conor McGregor has made headlines once again, this time by claiming that his long-rumored White House fight is officially signed, sealed, and finalized. The former two-division UFC champion, widely regarded as the sport's biggest draw, declared with confidence that the deal is complete and no longer in the negotiation stage. According to McGregor, the fight is not only confirmed but represents a monumental moment for both his career and the UFC. "It's a done deal, signed and delivered," McGregor said, emphasizing that there is no uncertainty left surrounding the bout. "It's not a negotiation. This is finalized." His words immediately set off a wave of speculation and excitement among fans worldwide, as this event could mark one of the most historic occasions in the history of combat sports. The fight is expected to take place at the White House, a venue that would serve as an unprecedented stage for mixed martial arts. McGregor described the event as part of a grander vision to celebrate America's 250th anniversary, linking the spectacle of combat sports with a milestone of national significance. By his account, UFC 200, or what he referred to as America's 250, is more than just another pay-per-view. It is designed to be a landmark occasion blending entertainment, sport, and history. Questions have naturally arisen about UFC President Dana White's role in approving such an unusual and groundbreaking event. McGregor, however, was quick to clarify that there is no friction between him and the organization's leadership. "Me and Dana are in constant communication," McGregor stated. "We've done incredible business together. I'm the highest generating fighter in the history of the UFC, and we continue to break barriers." His words suggest not only a strong working relationship but also mutual recognition of the scale and impact this event could bring to the promotion. McGregor also tied the announcement to the UFC's recently signed deal with Paramount, which he described as breathtaking. The contract, valued at $7.7 billion, will reportedly bring UFC events to cable television under a massive new broadcasting partnership. McGregor framed his White House fight as the perfect kickoff to this new era, calling it a symbol of growth and global expansion for both himself and the UFC brand. "That deal was approved and ready to rock," he said with characteristic bravado. "So bring in the big dog, the Mac. The Mac is here." For McGregor, this event is not simply about stepping into the octagon again but about further cementing his legacy as the most influential fighter in mixed martial arts history. He views his role as larger than that of just an athlete. He is a global entertainer, a cultural figure, and a business driver for the UFC. By headlining such a historic event, McGregor hopes to showcase not only his own star power but also the ability of the UFC to transcend traditional sports venues and reach new heights. If his claims prove true, the spectacle of a White House fight will be unlike anything the fight world has ever seen. It would place McGregor once again at the center of sports history, reinforcing his reputation as the man who continues to bring the biggest moments, the boldest moves, and the loudest attention to the UFC. Alex Pereira has responded to recent comments made by UFC heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall, who suggested that Pereira had been given favorable matchups leading up to his recent fight with Magomed Ankalaev. Aspinall argued that Pereira's opponents up until Ankalaev didn't pose the same stylistic challenges, and that the Dagestani fighter's combination of southpaw stance, range control, and the constant threat of takedowns presented a unique and difficult puzzle for the Brazilian. According to Aspinall, even though Ankalaev did not fully commit to his wrestling in their first encounter, the mere possibility of grappling exchanges created problems that Pereira had not faced before. He went on to say that Ankalaev might once again prove to be a difficult matchup in a potential rematch. When asked about Aspinall's analysis during a recent media appearance, Pereira dismissed the claim and explained why he disagreed. He pointed out that the very nature of competing in the UFC means that no fighter is receiving favorable matchups. Pereira reminded everyone that he came into mixed martial arts from a pure kickboxing background, with virtually no grappling or wrestling experience, and was immediately placed among the highest level of competition in the sport. In his view, anyone who enters the octagon at this level is automatically at a disadvantage in certain areas, regardless of who their opponent may be. Pereira emphasized that it was unreasonable to suggest he was given easy fights on his way up the ranks. The UFC, he argued, is the biggest and most competitive organization in the world. Every opponent he faced was dangerous in their own way and presented real threats that required him to adapt, evolve, and prove himself. Even if he was matched against someone considered less accomplished in certain areas, Pereira believed that his limited MMA background meant he would still have to overcome disadvantages. For him, this underscores the absurdity of Aspinall's suggestion that he had been protected by the matchmaking process. The Brazilian champion went further to explain that his rapid rise was not due to favorable opponents but rather to his ability to learn quickly, trust his striking pedigree, and steadily develop his skills in other areas. He admitted that facing someone like Ankalaev posed unique challenges, but he framed this as part of the natural progression of any fighter's career rather than a reflection of biased matchmaking. Pereira noted that every fighter eventually runs into opponents whose style creates problems, and that this is part of the sport's evolution and competition at the elite level. In addressing Aspinall's comments directly, Pereira remained professional, neither dismissive nor confrontational. Instead, he took the opportunity to remind fans and media of the realities of transitioning from one combat sport to another at the highest level. He highlighted the fact that he willingly entered the octagon with limited MMA experience and still managed to achieve success against world-class opposition. For Pereira, that speaks louder than any claim about favorable matchmaking. Ultimately, his response underscores the mindset that has carried him through his career. Respect for the challenge, acknowledgement of the risks, and a determination to keep proving himself regardless of the opponent standing across from him. UFC President Dana White has officially announced several major bouts scheduled for UFC Qatar on November 22, including a highly anticipated lightweight showdown and a welterweight clash that promises fireworks. The event is already generating buzz, not only for the caliber of fighters involved but also for the intensity of the rivalries fueling these matchups. Headlining the card will be a lightweight main event between Arman Tsarukyan and Dan Hooker. Tsarukyan comes into the bout riding momentum after his hard-fought split decision victory over former champion Charles Oliveira, a win that solidified his standing among the division's elite. Hooker, on the other hand, earned his own split decision win in his last outing against rising contender Mateusz Gamrot. Both men are known for their resilience, striking ability, and willingness to engage in grueling battles, making this fight one of the most intriguing stylistic clashes of the year. Beyond the competitive implications, there is personal tension adding fuel to the fire. In an interview with Submission Radio, Hooker made it clear he has no fondness for his upcoming opponent. "I don't like that his face is attached to his body," Hooker said bluntly. "I would love to separate the two. I don't know anything about him, but I hate everything he stands for. Can't wait to elbow him in the nose." With words like these, the animosity between the two has spilled into the public eye, setting the stage for an emotionally charged main event. The co-main event will feature a welterweight clash between former champion Belal Muhammad and surging Irish contender Ian Garry. For Muhammad, this fight represents an opportunity to rebound after losing his welterweight crown to Jack Della Maddalena in a closely contested bout. Known for his toughness, relentless pressure, and strong wrestling base, Muhammad will be eager to re-establish himself as a title contender in one of the UFC's most competitive divisions. Garry, nicknamed The Future, is quickly becoming one of the most polarizing figures in MMA. Fresh off a dominant unanimous decision win over Carlos Prates, the young Irishman continues to climb the welterweight ranks while building his reputation as both a talented striker and a master of self-promotion. Shortly after the fight announcement, Garry took to Instagram with a bold message aimed directly at Muhammad. "You're going to see speed like you've never seen before," Garry wrote. "Belal Muhammad, a respected former champion, will be made to look like an amateur in front of your very eyes. You watched me decimate Magny. Shut down Shavkat. Peace up Prates. Now you're about to witness the greatest version of The Future. Qatar, you're very lucky indeed." Muhammad was quick to fire back, posting a photo of his own accompanied by a short and cutting response, "Shut up." The contrast between Garry's brash self-confidence and Muhammad's no-nonsense demeanor has only heightened fan anticipation for their showdown. With two headline-worthy fights already confirmed, UFC Qatar is shaping up to be one of the year's biggest international events. Between the bad blood of Tsarukyan versus Hooker and the clashing personalities of Muhammad versus Garry, fight fans can expect a night of drama, intensity, and high-level competition. Former UFC middleweight champion Robert Whittaker has weighed in on the upcoming rematch between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev, expressing doubts about Pereira's chances of avenging his loss. While Whittaker acknowledged Pereira's dangerous striking ability, he outlined several tactical and stylistic hurdles that make him skeptical about the Brazilian's ability to overcome Ankalaev a second time. Whittaker began by pointing out that for Pereira to have success, he would need to be more aggressive than he was in their first encounter. He explained that Pereira performs best when he is pressing forward, dictating the pace, and putting his opponents on the back foot. That constant forward momentum was a key factor in the string of knockout victories that propelled him to UFC stardom. However, in the Ankalaev fight, Whittaker observed that Pereira appeared hesitant, reacting rather than initiating exchanges, which significantly reduced his effectiveness. The more I look into this fight, the harder it is for me to picture a clear path for Pereira to win, Whittaker explained. In order to turn things around from their first fight, he needs to be less hesitant and take the lead. Pereira doesn't fight as well when he's backing up. What made him so dangerous in his big knockout wins was that he was hunting guys down, always pressing forward. According to Whittaker, Ankalaev's ability to pressure Pereira with varied looks was key to disrupting the Brazilian's rhythm. Even when Ankalaev wasn't fully committing to takedowns, the threat was enough to make Pereira second-guess himself. That hesitation prevented him from unleashing the aggressive combinations and devastating counters that have defined his career. Ankalaev was giving him different looks, feinting takedowns, and forcing him to work harder than usual, Whittaker noted. That pressure made Pereira hesitant and kept him off the front foot, which is where he's most dangerous. Whittaker did concede that Pereira had some success later in the fight once he began to adjust. His best rounds came when he started moving forward more confidently, throwing with greater commitment, and pushing Ankalaev back. Still, Whittaker questioned whether that adjustment would be enough to win the rematch. He emphasized that for Pereira to succeed, he must fully embrace his role as the aggressor, get behind his punches, and trust in his power to change the trajectory of the fight. However, that approach carries its own risks. Whittaker warned that by moving forward and committing to his offense, Pereira could open himself up to Ankalaev's wrestling in ways he did not in their first fight. If Pereira pushes forward aggressively, maybe Ankalaev doesn't just attempt takedowns to keep him honest, Whittaker said. Maybe this time one of them actually lands. That's the danger. Ultimately, Whittaker described Pereira's situation as a difficult balancing act. To have a chance at victory, Pereira needs to be the hunter, dictating the pace, pressing forward, and landing impactful shots. But the very aggression that gives him his best chance to win could also create the openings Ankalaev needs to secure a decisive takedown and control the fight. It's going to be a very hard fight for Alex, Whittaker concluded. I just find it hard to see a clear path for him. He needs to be aggressive, but being aggressive could also be what gets him beaten. Former UFC title challenger Gilbert Burns has weighed in on the highly anticipated rematch between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev, offering an interesting perspective on why he believes Pereira was not at his best in their first meeting. According to Burns, the Brazilian powerhouse was nowhere near 100% physically or mentally that night, and if he enters the octagon fully prepared this time around, he has the ability to finish Ankalaev in spectacular fashion. Burns acknowledged the toughness and skill of Ankalaev, who managed to control much of their first fight and ultimately secure victory. However, Burns insisted that the version of Pereira who showed up that night was far from the devastating striker who had risen through the UFC ranks with highlight reel knockouts. Ankalaev is very tough, Burns admitted. But I don't think Alex was at 100% that night. He even said afterward that he was at maybe 40%. I don't know if it was really that low, but everyone could see he wasn't himself. Reflecting on Pereira's performance, Burns pointed out that the Brazilian seemed unusually hesitant. Instead of pushing forward with his trademark aggression and unleashing his striking arsenal, Pereira appeared tentative, wary of the takedown threat. In the beginning, I thought he was afraid of the takedown, Burns explained. But then he started defending well. The problem was, he didn't let his hands go. He didn't pull the trigger. According to Burns, there were legitimate reasons behind Pereira's uncharacteristic performance. After the fight, Pereira revealed that he had been under the weather while traveling to Australia in the lead-up, and upon returning, he still did not feel well. Burns believes the hectic lifestyle of being one of the UFC's biggest stars also played a role. He was just everywhere, Burns said. Traveling constantly, doing media, working non-stop. It's hard to balance that and stay fully focused on training. I don't think he was able to work the way he usually does to prepare. For Burns, this explains why Pereira appeared flat and hesitant in the octagon, unable to impose the kind of pressure that has overwhelmed so many of his past opponents. But with the rematch now approaching, Burns is confident that a fully prepared Pereira will look entirely different. If Alex shows up 100% this time, I think he knocks out Ankalaev, Burns said. That would be huge for the UFC and for MMA as a whole. Burns highlighted the potential impact of such a result, noting that Pereira remains one of the sport's biggest attractions. A knockout win over Ankalaev would not only avenge his loss but also reinforce his status as one of the most dangerous strikers in combat sports. You know how good that would be for MMA? Burns added enthusiastically. If he comes in sharp, focused, and healthy, it's going to be insane. As excitement builds for the rematch, Burns' perspective adds yet another layer to the storyline. Fans are left wondering which version of Alex Pereira will show up on fight night. The hesitant fighter from the first bout, or the aggressive knockout artist who has electrified arenas across the globe.